Today, I want to talk about something that is often misunderstood and underemphasized: boundaries in relationships. Boundaries are not barriers or walls that separate us from the people we care about. No, boundaries are acts of self-respect, courage, and self-love. They are the foundation of healthy relationships, not just with others, but with ourselves. Without boundaries, we risk losing our sense of self, our autonomy, and ultimately our joy. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, thrive when we establish and maintain healthy boundaries. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and they ensure that we are treated with the dignity and care that we deserve. So today, let's talk about 7 crucial boundaries every woman must set in her relationships, because you deserve to be loved in a way that honors you. One of the most fundamental and empowering boundaries that a woman must set in a relationship is the boundary of self-worth. So often we find ourselves caught in the web of external validation, seeking approval from others to feel good about ourselves. We become people pleasers, trying to meet the expectations of our partners, friends, and family, hoping that their acceptance will somehow fill the void within us. But here's the truth: no one else can define your worth except you. Setting the boundary of self-worth begins with the recognition that you are inherently valuable simply because you exist. Your worth is not tied to your appearance, your achievements, or your ability to meet other people's needs. It is not negotiable, and it is not up for debate. It's time to stop seeking approval from the outside world and to start embracing the fact that you are enough just as you are. This boundary is about understanding that you deserve love, respect, and kindness, not because of what you do or how you serve others, but because of who you are at your core. It's about telling yourself that you do not need to earn love, and that no one has the right to diminish you or make you feel small. The moment you set this boundary, you step into your power. When you honor this boundary, you stop accepting less than you deserve. It becomes easier to recognize when someone is treating you poorly, and you no longer tolerate disrespect or manipulation in any form. Whether it's subtle comments that make you feel less than or overt actions that undermine your value, you now have the confidence to call it out and walk away from situations that don't honor your self-worth. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that we must sacrifice our own needs to keep others happy. But this is a dangerous pattern. When we continuously put others before ourselves, we slowly lose our sense of identity. We forget that we have needs too, that our emotional health, our time, and our energy are just as important as anyone else's. Self-worth isn't about being arrogant or dismissing the needs of others. It's about knowing where your limits are and setting clear expectations for how you want to be treated. It's about saying, I am worthy of being treated with kindness, respect, and love, and if you can't give that to me, I will walk away. This boundary also involves being honest with yourself about what you need from others. Are you allowing someone to take more from you than you are willing to give? Are you staying in situations that drain your energy and leave you feeling empty? Honoring the boundary of self-worth means that you learn to recognize those toxic patterns and make a decision to protect your peace and your well-being. It's important to remember that setting this boundary doesn't mean you are being selfish or unwilling to compromise. In healthy relationships, boundaries are not about drawing lines to keep people out. They are about creating space for mutual respect and understanding. When you honor your self-worth, you create a space where both you and your partner can thrive, where both of you can show up as your best selves, not out of obligation, but out of a deep sense of mutual care. The boundary of emotional safety is one of the most vital aspects of any healthy relationship. It is the foundation upon which vulnerability, trust, and true connection are built. Emotional safety is not just about avoiding harm, it's about creating a space where both you and your partner can be your most authentic selves, where your emotions are valued and where you feel free to express your deepest fears, desires, and needs without fear of judgment or rejection. Setting this boundary begins with recognizing that emotional safety is not something that is automatically granted in a relationship. It must be actively cultivated. It's about creating an environment in which both partners feel secure enough to share openly, to be seen for who they really are, and to explore the full spectrum of their emotions without the risk of being dismissed, ridiculed, or invalidated. The first step in setting this boundary is to acknowledge your own emotional needs. Many women have been conditioned to put others' feelings ahead of their own, often suppressing their own emotions to avoid conflict or maintain harmony in relationships. But when we do this, we risk losing ourselves in the process. You cannot be emotionally safe in a relationship if you are not allowed to express how you truly feel. Your feelings are real, valid, and worthy of attention. In a relationship that is emotionally safe, both partners actively listen to each other without jumping to conclusions or dismissing each other's emotions. You must feel that your partner is there for you, not just when things are easy, but when you are at your most vulnerable. Emotional safety means that you are free to express discomfort, anger, sadness, joy, or fear, and that your partner will meet you with empathy and understanding. To set the boundary of emotional safety, you need to communicate openly and assertively about your need for this kind of space. This might look like expressing your desire for your partner to listen without offering advice, or letting them know that you need time and space to process your emotions before discussing something important. It also involves recognizing when a conversation is becoming emotionally unsafe, whether through escalation, blame, or name calling, and being willing to pause, step back, and restore a sense of calm before continuing. But emotional safety is a two-way street. It's not just about asking for emotional security from others, it's about offering it to yourself and extending it to your partner as well. And when you set this boundary, you're not only asking for space to be vulnerable, but also committing to being emotionally present and supportive in return. This means showing up for your partner, not with judgment, but with compassion and a willingness to truly listen without attempting to fix or minimize their experience. It means refraining from using your partner's vulnerabilities against them during moments of disagreement or conflict. Emotional safety also requires that you establish limits on how you allow others to treat you emotionally. If a relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, is consistently marked by belittling comments, emotional manipulation, or silent treatment, it is your responsibility to protect your emotional well-being by setting clear and firm boundaries. You have the right to tell others that certain behaviors, such as invalidating your feelings, mocking you, or shutting you down emotionally, are not acceptable. At the same time, emotional safety means being open to receiving feedback in difficult conversations. It's not about building walls to keep others out. It's about creating a space where honesty and vulnerability can flow freely without fear of retribution or harm. When you set this boundary, you are saying, I want to have difficult conversations. I want to navigate the storms with you, but I need to do it in an environment where I feel emotionally supported and safe. Setting this boundary also involves setting limits on how much emotional energy you give away to others. You cannot be emotionally available for others if you are constantly neglecting your own needs. It's about understanding that your emotional energy is precious and should not be drained by those who do not appreciate or reciprocate the safety you provide. When you set emotional boundaries, you create a space for self-care and self-protection, allowing yourself the time and space to heal, reflect, and grow. One of the most profound aspects of emotional safety is being able to trust that your vulnerabilities will be respected. This means trusting that your partner won't take advantage of your openness or use your feelings against you in moments of disagreement. It is the belief that your emotions will be held with care and that your partner will not use your insecurities or fears as ammunition in moments of frustration. This trust is not built overnight, but it can be nurtured over time by consistently honoring each other's emotional needs. The boundary of time and energy is one of the most crucial boundaries that every woman must set in a relationship. Our time and energy are our most finite and precious resources, and once they are given away, they cannot be reclaimed. In any healthy relationship, it is essential to establish clear limits around how you allocate your time and energy, because when these resources are drained, not only do we lose our vitality, but we risk losing our sense of self. Time is an irreplaceable asset. Each minute that passes is one that you will never get back. Therefore, how we choose to spend our time says a great deal about what we value and how we prioritize ourselves and others. In relationships, particularly romantic ones, it's easy to become swept away by the constant demands for your time, whether it's from your partner, family, or friends. But when we don't set the boundary of time, we can become overwhelmed, burned out, and disconnected from our own needs and desires. Setting this boundary begins with understanding that your time is valuable. It's not about being selfish. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of having time for yourself, time to rest, time to pursue your passions, and time to recharge. When we constantly give away our time without considering our own needs, we end up depleted. And when we're depleted, we can't show up fully for others. We can't offer love, care, or support if we don't have the time or energy to care for ourselves first. In relationships, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of being constantly available for others, especially if you're someone who tends to take on the responsibility of keeping everyone happy. But when you don't honor your own time, it becomes difficult to create the balance that is essential for emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Setting this boundary means that you stop allowing others to dictate how you spend your time and start taking ownership of your schedule. It's about saying no when you need to and feeling confident in doing so without guilt or fear of disappointing others. One of the greatest challenges in setting the boundary of time is learning how to say no. Saying no isn't about being unkind or rejecting others. It's about respecting yourself enough to acknowledge when you need rest, space, or simply time to focus on your own needs. It might mean saying no to a last minute invitation that you know will drain you, or saying no to tasks and obligations that you don't have the energy to fulfill. Saying no is not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of your self awareness and your commitment to protecting your time and energy. Time is not the only resource at play here, your energy is just as important. While we may have the ability to create time through scheduling and prioritizing, energy is something much more elusive. We can often feel like we're running on empty, giving and giving until there's nothing left to give. When we don't set boundaries around our energy, we risk emotional exhaustion, burnout, and resentment. Energy is the fuel that keeps us moving, and when we're constantly drained, we become irritable, disengaged, and less able to connect with others in meaningful ways. This boundary involves being mindful of how your energy is affected by different people and situations. Are there certain individuals who leave you feeling drained after spending time with them? Are there activities that drain your energy without providing any fulfillment or joy? Setting boundaries around your energy means that you become attuned to the sources of your energy, both positive and negative, and make choices that protect and replenish it. When you set the boundary of energy, you recognize that you cannot give from an empty cup. You learn to say no to situations, people, and activities that leave you feeling depleted, and you start saying yes to the things that restore your spirit. You might find yourself prioritizing alone time, engaging in activities that bring you joy, or surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and make you feel empowered. When you honor this boundary, you are better able to show up as the best version of yourself for those you love, because you've taken the time and care to refill your cup. Another critical aspect of this boundary is recognizing that your time and energy should be mutually respected by others. In any relationship, there needs to be a balance of give and take. If you find that you're constantly giving your time and energy while receiving little in return, it's important to address this imbalance. Healthy relationships are built on reciprocity, not one-sided demands. Setting the boundary of time and energy means that you stop overextending yourself for others at the cost of your own well-being. You set the expectation that your time and energy are valuable and that you will not allow them to be taken for granted. This boundary also requires you to create space for self-care. Self-care is not selfish, it's essential. You must make time for activities that recharge you, whether that's through meditation, reading, exercising, or simply resting. When you prioritize your time and energy, you are not only taking care of yourself, but you are also creating a healthier and more balanced relationship with others. By taking time for yourself, you have more energy to offer, more patience to give, and more love to share. In relationships, time and energy boundaries also require setting expectations for how your time together is spent. It's about quality, not just quantity. You should not feel obligated to spend all of your time with your partner, nor should you feel that you must be constantly available. When both partners respect each other's need for personal time and energy, The relationship becomes stronger and more fulfilling. You both have the space to grow, pursue individual passions, and come together in a more meaningful way. The boundary of physical space is one that is often overlooked or undervalued, but it is essential to creating a healthy and balanced relationship. Our physical space is not only the environment in which we live, but also an extension of our emotional, mental, and personal well-being. It is the territory that we occupy as individuals, and setting clear boundaries around it is crucial for maintaining our sense of autonomy, privacy, and personal identity within a relationship. When we think of physical space, we tend to think about the literal boundaries, our home, our room, or even our own personal bubble. However, physical space is far more than just geography. It also includes how close or distant we allow others to be from us, the time we spend together, and the time we need to be apart. It encompasses both the physical environment and the way we move within that environment. Setting boundaries around physical space begins with the understanding that you have the right to your own personal space. This is true whether you are living with a partner, cohabiting, or even just spending time with them. There is no obligation for you to be constantly in close proximity to your partner or anyone else. You have the right to claim your physical space and use it in ways that make you feel comfortable, grounded, and at ease. Just as your emotional and mental boundaries are important, your physical space is just as necessary for maintaining your personal well-being. The boundary of physical space is about recognizing that your need for space is not a reflection of any lack of love or care for your partner. It is a reflection of your need for self-preservation, balance, and respect. Physical closeness in relationships is important, but it should never be imposed upon you in a way that violates your need for solitude or personal freedom. You do not have to be constantly in the presence of your partner or anyone else to prove your commitment or your affection. In fact, time apart can often enhance the connection between two people because it allows each person to maintain their sense of individuality and recharge. When we fail to set clear boundaries around our physical space, we risk feeling suffocated, overwhelmed, and drained. It becomes easy to lose ourselves in the relationship, neglecting our own needs for rest, privacy, and self-care. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge that physical boundaries are not only about protecting your space from intrusion, they are also about allowing space for your partner to have their own freedom too. In a healthy relationship, both individuals should have room to grow, explore their own passions, and maintain their own identities. One of the most important aspects of setting this boundary is learning to communicate your need for space clearly and without guilt. Many women struggle with this because they have been taught that relationships require constant togetherness. Society often promotes the idea that love means never being apart. But the reality is that both partners in a relationship need space to maintain their emotional health and sense of self. You are entitled to the space that allows you to recharge, reflect, and even do things on your own without feeling obligated to explain or justify it. This can mean creating physical space within your living environment. Whether it's carving out time alone in a separate room or setting a routine that allows for time away from your partner or family, creating a sanctuary for yourself is key. This physical boundary protects your mental health and allows you to replenish your energy. It's a space where you can be by yourself, reflect, relax, and nurture your own passions without interruptions. For some, this means having a space in the home where they can retreat to, whether it's a specific room, a cozy corner, or simply a spot where they can engage in their own activities without feeling the pressure of others. But physical space isn't just about having a retreat for yourself in your home. It also involves giving yourself the permission to take breaks and step back when necessary in social situations. Perhaps there are moments when you need to take a walk to clear your mind or retreat to a quiet place during a family gathering. There's no shame in taking time away from the crowd or retreating to a private spot to rejuvenate. In fact, it is an act of self-respect to recognize when you need that space and to honor it. In relationships, especially long-term partnerships, it can be easy to feel like you need to always be on, always available, always present. But this constant closeness can lead to burnout, resentment, and emotional fatigue. Setting the boundary of physical space means recognizing that time apart from your partner doesn't diminish the relationship. Instead, it strengthens it. It allows both individuals to reconnect with themselves, grow individually, and return to the relationship with renewed energy, affection, and appreciation for one another. The boundary of physical space also extends to the way we manage shared spaces. Whether you live together or spend a lot of time in each other's homes, it's important to set rules around the use of shared spaces that honor both people's comfort and needs. For example, if one person needs a quiet environment to work or unwind, it's important that the other person respects that need. Likewise, creating space for each other to enjoy their hobbies or personal time helps to prevent the feelings of intrusion and discomfort that can arise when personal space is disregarded. Having an open conversation about these boundaries can help ensure that both people feel respected and understood in the relationship. Another crucial aspect of setting boundaries around physical space is understanding your personal tolerance for physical touch. In relationships, it's easy for physical touch to become a constant expectation, but it's important to honor your own physical needs. Whether it's needing time apart or not always feeling in the mood for physical affection, it's essential to communicate those needs without feeling like you're rejecting your partner. Physical touch should always be consensual, and it should feel comfortable and nurturing, not forced. Learning to communicate these preferences with kindness and empathy is key to respecting each other's physical boundaries. The boundary of physical space also means setting limits on how much you allow your partner to control your space or your environment. If you have a certain way of organizing your things, or if there are particular spaces or items that are personal to you, it's important to assert that this is your space to decide upon. There's nothing wrong with having boundaries around your personal belongings and the way you choose to manage your space, and your partner should respect those boundaries. Ultimately, setting the boundary of physical space is about ensuring that you retain a sense of individuality and autonomy within the relationship. It's about honoring your need for solitude, self-reflection, and personal growth. It's about creating a balance between connection and personal freedom. And it's about recognizing that your physical space, much like your emotional and mental space, is sacred and deserving of respect. The boundary of communication is a crucial aspect of any relationship. It dictates not only the way we interact with others, but also the emotional safety, respect, and understanding we create through our words and actions. Effective communication fosters connection, trust, and clarity in relationships, but when boundaries are not set around how we communicate, misunderstandings, frustrations, and emotional exhaustion can quickly arise.